They're beautiful. They give enjoyment. They're very much like children in many ways. Oftentimes when we go to look at a box, we tap on, knock on their door, so they know they have a visitor. And if the mother is in there, she will immediately fly out. And then we can look at the birds. But she does not fly far. She will fly in a tree close by, and she will sit there and watch, and often just chatter, 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 chatter. Go away, go away. This is a cardinal that she made. I like this one. This is a chickadee that she made. Her home was right on the edge of the woods. And of course she had her flower gardens, and she could see just about everything. She had bird boxes. She fed the birds. She liked bird pictures, paintings, and her house had a lot of paintings. Mostly they were of birds, different kinds of birds. She always had hummingbird feeders. She had 2 or 3. She had big glass doors off her little family room there, and then a patio right out there, and she had them hanging from the overhang, and so she could watch them when she was unable to, to get outside. I know at one time sugar was rationed. I think it was during the war or something, it was rationed. But there was always sugar for the hummers. I was born a long time ago. I was born in 1932 in October. The town that I lived in was very small, very, very small. It had 1 stoplight, and it had a small grocery store, and a hardware store, and a gas station, and a school, and a church. It did have a milk plant, because my grandfather would carry the milk from his dairy every morning to the creamery. And I spent a lot of time with my grandfather, who lived about a 1/4 of a mile down the road. He had a dairy farm. So I spent a lot of time in the summers helping him. My grandfather bought me a calf, and I had that for 4-H. And I would brush it and keep it clean and love on it. And my mom made a blanket to go over her to keep her nice and smooth, so that when I took her to the county fair to show her, she would be perfect. And so I got several blue ribbons, and that was fun to go over there. Riverview Matchless Lassie was her name. My mom was a good cook, but we were good eaters too, and we would eat anything. Of course, we had a garden, a big garden, and she froze things and canned things and just preserved things. We would pull carrots and put them in the cellar, keep them, and apples also. We would wrap them and put them down in the basement. We always had a pig or a hog, and that would be butchered, and Mom would make sausage and head cheese and pickled pig's feet and all of that, and we liked all of that. And of course my father hunted a lot, and so we had venison a lot in the freezer, and he would sometimes find turtles, and Mom would make turtle soup, or frogs, and we'd have frog legs, and even rabbits. You know, in that time we were thankful for any kind of food, but Mom always fixed it so it was delicious. And so she was a good cook. And during the Depression also, she worked as the cook in our school. And everybody loved her cooking. She had special dishes that the kids always liked, and they would come back and they could get seconds. And so she was known as a cook. And at church, if there was a time when people got together, she would be very pointed in saying, now this person should not bring this because they don't do this very well. This person makes good so-and-so. She needs to do this. She was very particular. When I would come home from school, from college once in a while, she always fixed me venison steaks. I loved them, and so she always was good at that. And she always sent food to the neighbors, and always did kind things for those that were sick or needed something. She would make it, and then she would send it by one of us kids. Sometimes people would come unannounced, you know, and always she would thin the soup, so she said. My older sister wanted some of her recipes, and so she was the one. She kept talking to Mom to do it. You know, Mom thought, oh, they're not interested. They don't want it. Finally, she got Mom to finish it, and I use it. I like it because it's in her own handwriting. I think that I admired her, or just had a thought about how great this is after my father died. Mom had been a teacher, so she decided that she would go back to school, and she was along in years, and every day she drove probably, I don't know how long it would take her, maybe 45 minutes or so through the winter and all. She drove to school. And she would say, well, I'm the oldest one in the class. So she graduated, and then she taught school for many, many more years. So we were very proud of her for doing that. Sometimes they say, you're just like your mom. Everybody from first grade to 12th grade were in the same school. And so I knew who he was, and we traveled in, we traveled in a pack. Everybody together in a group would go to the movies or go to my house or do things together. But in high school we started to date a little bit. It was just, I don't know how it was. Maybe within a group you just kind of paired off or did things within the group together.
We both enjoyed the same things. She liked sports, I liked sports. I played baseball, basketball. She liked those things. She was a cheerleader.
He was always very quiet, very kind, and did he have any competitive?
You or he?
Me?
He had.
He will say yes.
Donald Anderson was one. He was a good friend of mine.
We went to separate colleges, quite a ways apart, so we didn't see each other except holidays. No, I remember he gave me my ring in his home on his mother's sofa. I got it there and I was grateful because he was very special, and he still is. He has just been a jewel in my life. I have been so blessed.
We always got along, most of the time. I mean, it's like any marriage. We never had any bad experiences together or anything like that. I think I love Joan more today than than I ever have in the past. I will probably love her more tomorrow than I do today.
I taught kindergarten the first couple of years, and then we moved to Maryland. For some reason, I went to a meeting or something about learning disabled children, and that really fascinated me. And because my degree was early childhood. So when we moved to Georgia, there was a professor that lived just down a few houses down from me, and I talked to him about going to school. And he said, yeah, you need to do that because you needed a master's. So he was very helpful, and so I did. I was the older student, but that was okay. And I got a degree in special education, specifically learning disabled. It was a small class, and I had the students all day long. A few of them later on were, I call them farmed out. They were in a regular class for non-academics.
You know, you gotta get right.
I enjoyed that very, very much. I like a challenge, and they were all challenges. I remember her getting on top of the climber out here and standing up, you know, and she wouldn't come down. Kids that really needed a lot of loving, a lot of care, a lot of direction, and I like that. Because of their learning habits and patterns, I did a lot of hands-on stuff with them outdoors, teaching them about the environment. And we had herb gardens, and we made a lot of herb vinegars. We had beehives, and we harvested the honey. And we had a vegetable garden and some flowers also. We sold this. We would have a sale every fall. We made a lot of bird boxes, bluebird boxes, just a lot of different things, and put them up. And then kept track of them. We would count the eggs, check the boxes, count the eggs. Feeding the animals too. Of course, we had other animals that they had responsibilities for. I tried to incorporate all of this into math and reading because that was the way that they seemed to learn the best. And then from the money that we earned, I would take them on a trip. We went camping, different campsites here, Every year we went to some place that they maybe would never get the chance to go to. I am in the newspaper. I didn't know that.
It was just a blessing for those kids. You know, as she said before, some of those would never experience.
We, on Friday afternoons, there was a program set up whereby the students could choose a specific area to go to learn things they wouldn't learn normally during the day. And so I had decided that we would have a cafe, kind of like a little restaurant, in which we would serve maybe cupcakes or cookies or something like that, which they would help make. And then along with that, I tried to teach them social skills, interaction with other people, and how to carry on a conversation, and just manners, and just how to get along with people and to meet people. And so they enjoyed that. Oftentimes, several times during the year, we would have a tea party for the teachers, and we would send invitations, or they would go and personally invite them and come. And as they come, the students were assigned to certain teachers, and they had to greet the teachers and thank them for coming, and then take them and sit with them and carry on a conversation. So that was a challenge. They loved it, and I hope that that has carried over, because the social skills are really important, and these kinds of children lack social skills. Cooking was something that you could relate, and gardening could relate easily to the academics that were taught in the regular classroom. And they remembered, and it was good, because when you could see that it carried over and they could transfer that information to a new situation, you knew that they understood it.
Back then we had more autonomy of the schools. Each school was really its own community, and we kind of controlled what happened in the building. Within reason, we didn't have to go to the district office or the board office to ask permission for any little thing. So no, anytime Joan asked for something, it was always go for it. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission. Okay, many times with a good idea, just do it and then we'll worry about it later. This wonderful memory is just her enthusiasm and love for kids, and believing that all kids can achieve. That was the best part. Watching some really students with some very major exceptionalities succeed in her classroom.
Mary was a sheep, and we got her when she still had her tail from the university through a friend. We brought her, and the parents helped build a fence, a field for her, and we had her, and it was the kids' responsibility to feed and clean and do all those kinds of things. And Mary became a student. She was as important as any other student in the school. And she had the free run of all of the school property. And as she grew older, sometimes the secretary would tell me, I had a visitor this morning, and he came in and he said, do you know, there's a sheep running around outside. And the secretary would say, yeah, that's Mary, it's okay. But she would go inside the school and she would visit the classrooms, and then when the teacher was tired of her, why, she'd say, "Out, Mary." And we had her, once a year we would have her sheared. There was a fellow that would come and he would shear her. And then we would keep the wool, and we did borrowed a loom, and we combed the wool and dyed it with natural plants. So we had some very pretty colors, and then they wove it into a wall hanging and on the loom, and it hung it in the library. And so they knew there's Mary on the wall. Mary disappeared one day. We kept her at night in a large dog pen outside, and every morning I would go out and unlock it. And one morning I went out, and the door was open and Mary was gone. Did not know what had happened, and everybody panicked. We called around the neighborhood to people, and the newspaper came and took a story, and then it was written in the newspapers. Everybody in Athens knew that Mary was missing. That the things that we did at Barnard Shoals was not done anywhere else. It was very unique, and so it went by several days and could not find Mary. And so then a phone call came to the school, and someone anonymously said that they thought Mary was in a field in, I think, Jackson County, up there somewhere. So the art teacher's husband came very quickly with his truck, and I think there was a newspaper fellow and I and her husband, and we went looking. Finally, after searching, we did find the field, but no Mary. We could not see. It was empty. There was no one in the house. It was just completely isolated, and so we were I was extremely disappointed. And of course the kids at school were waiting. And so we were ready to go, and I looked out in the field and didn't see anything, but I just hollered, "Mary!" And before I could turn around, she came up over the hill. Lickety split. Just running. And opened the gate, and we just hugged each other. That was just so special. Though it was an animal, we had bonded so well that she knew my voice. And so we put her in the truck and took her back to school. All the kids were out there with big signs. Welcome, welcome Mary. And so we put her out, and they just hugged her and walked her back around to the back of the school, and she was home, and everybody was happy, and everybody could get back to work, because there hadn't been a lot of work done in her absence. Thank you. I never cooked. At home, I never cooked. And the first time I cooked that I can remember is after I was married, and Norm had taken a job in Delaware, and he had invited someone for dinner. Scared me to death, and it was a disaster. It was terrible. The meat was awful, as I remember, and I just felt horrible. And so I don't know. I guess I determined that I needed to do something about the cooking. But of course, when the kids came along, that, you know, you had to cook. So when they were in middle school and high school, we had their friends often, once a week anyway, at the house. And so I just cooked mainly what they liked. And so I just grew into it, I guess, and did what I had to do and really enjoyed it. And then, you know, top it, whatever you want on it. And then I think we'll slip the whole thing in. On here or whatever, yeah. 10-inch. So maybe if you want to get together in 2 or 3s and put whatever you want on it. I swear I got my store. After I retired teaching, my friend Fraser Galloway asked me again if I would come, and because they had need of teachers. And so after consideration and a long vacation, I went. After a while, I like to do things when I teach. In my class at school, we did a lot of activities through which they learned. And so I decided that I needed something, not just to stand and talk. So we started cooking. The cooking, American cooking, is very, very different from Asian cooking. And they were interested because many of them, I think, in their home countries do not have the same tools, so to speak, to cook with. They don't have large ovens, and the way they cook is different. I do a lot of baking in the oven or steaming and things like this, which was very new to them. A lot of the vocabulary that we use in cooking is foreign to them. So we went through a lot of vocabulary pertaining to how you cook, like you stir, you fold, you beat. If you want something to be really fluffy, then you're going to beat it with an electric beater. There was one particular person. Her name was Jackie. And she suggested that we do a cookbook. And so it went from there, and all of the students participated, and we did. We finally published a little cookbook, and we have used it. So, and it has gone probably around the world. I think they like to get together and just talk. And they help each other and they encourage each other, which I think is very important. And I think that our group is very close. They keep track of each other. And that's very good. And they come from different countries, and they learn about tradition, culture in other countries. And I think come to realize that we're all the same. I probably, hopefully, the main way is encouraging, helping them to adjust to a new culture when they come, to show them that they are accepted and loved whatever the need, I try to help them. But I think it's just, I think it all boils down to just loving them.
Hello. Hello.
The nurse said I had to wake him up. You sweet thing. My fingers aren't. Right there. See, that's a bean. Here comes another bean. This could be a bird, and this is his beak. All we need to do is put 2 eyes here. When you touch him, he curls up. He curls right up in a little ball. But he'll stretch out. He doesn't hurt you. He helps decompose the soil. Cool. Cool. You know what decompose is, don't you?
It's changing.
Changing. She's a quick learner. She enjoys it. Oh, look at there. A carrot.
A carrot.
You can eat it. Take a bite and then give me a bite. She likes to eat it. And she is very willing to learn.
Wow, a humongous.
That's a big one, isn't it? What do you think?
What is that thing?
You know what it is. We find them on the porch.
A lizard.
A lizard, yes. Oh my. I bet the car ran over him.
Was that your car?
What's that number?
1.
1, and remember how we say that? 1/4 cup water.
Water.
So we need 1 1/4 cup water, and then 1/2 cup vegetable oil, and 3
eggs.
eggs. Okay. I wonder if we should
A little bit too.
no, that's all right. Just scrape it off. Just kind of fill the hole. That's it. That's right. And then start at the handle and go down. Perfect.
The mountains are his, the rivers are his, the stars his hand they will do.
Whoa. There's nothing like God cannot do. For you. Okay, here you go. As you cook, you can talk about anything. Where it came from, you know, vanilla comes from a bean, and I have some vanilla beans, and so you can show her this. Or apples, and we count the seeds in the middle, and that one seed can make an apple tree. So you think how many apples are on a tree from one seed. And just different
different things. And, you know, if we use raisins, where did this raisin come from? And she will know it's a grape that's dried. I think most learning is done by doing, and it's not so much intentional as it is just taking that opportunity to
Way up to the edge.
connect different things, connect a word with something else. And that helps them to transfer that information from this to something similar. And sometimes children have a hard time transferring that information. They learn one thing and they think it's only seen in this particular element or whatever.
One thing that's always been very impressive to both my wife and I, my wife is an educator as well, is really the way that Graham teaches by allowing our children to get their hands dirty. Especially here at their house, this is a place where they can just kind of open the door and go and get dirty and walk down to the barn, or it used to be going down to the chicken coop and getting eggs out, or making a mess in the kitchen. It seems like there's no limitations on those. If it takes making a mess to learn something, then make the mess to learn something. If it takes an extra 30 minutes to do something because you have this small child beside you, then take the extra 30 minutes to do something so they can learn.
God is so great, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing like God cannot do.
Right now, you know, every so often she changes, but for sometimes now she says, I'm going to be a baker. Tomorrow it may be something else, but today it's a baker. And that's good. Kids need to be exposed and then choose. Using whatever talents the Lord has given them. I'm much more easygoing, you know, if
I spy with my
I'm very willing to get off the subject.
something.
If that is a question, you know, if they have a legitimate question,
You know where we go to the beach?
that's fine with me to get off, because you always can get back on the track. But
Where they started. Like this.
Under.
Right, just like you weave a pot holder. Here.
I remember when me, Brennan, and Sissy.
Brennan.
you kind of have to flow with the kids' thoughts and where they're going. Otherwise, you might miss a golden opportunity to teach them something that might affect them down the road. Because lots of times we don't know what goes on in their heads.
You can be my
And
lady.
I would sometimes like to know.
Something like that.
Wish I could figure them out.
This is one of my favorites.
What do we need? We have enough?
We only have 7 crayons.
How many more do we need?
1. Where do I put this?
Right here. Yes, I think so. There. Yes.
Thanksgiving originated when the early settlers came here called pilgrims. And I'm so happy that you're here to celebrate with us. And it's so nice, and I just thank you for coming. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the blessings of the year. Father, you truly have blessed us. We have so many things to be thankful for.